everybody. Very excited to be back here. Awesome.
What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? How you been? What's going on, Mr. Ben? Mr. Ben? Oh my God. Yeah. I got the hat. Let me go get my shirt real quick. I'll be back, y'all.
I snuck it on. So yeah, we're super excited to be here. So we'll have some people jumping on here, but we'll go around real quick, just kind of introduce everybody, so everybody has an idea of who all's here. But you guys are looking at 6 NarcAvengers on one screen, so we're super excited. So we want to do this the beginning Wednesday of every month, either on my channel or on Lee's channel. But we're just excited to be here, be able to answer questions, be able to talk to y'all, and get different perspectives than just dealing with Lee and myself all the time. So super excited to kind of go around and explain. I think we're all laid out differently, so I'm just going to go right to left of how we have it here. So Bree, and then Bree, Kat, Ashley, and Ro. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Oh, and me first. Hi. Hey, I'm Bree. Abuse is Abuse on TikTok, Instagram, and technically not here on YouTube, but that's okay. And yeah, and that's me.
Kat?
Am I up? Okay, I'm Kat. Stand coaching on TikTok, Instagram. I have a YouTube. There's only 2 videos, but there'll be more to come.
Nice.
Hey, is it me? Oh, Ashley, you can go, Ro. Okay. I'm Ro, Roller Coaster of Love on all platforms. And I do a lot of content about dating after abuse and thriving after abuse. So it's kind of like my focus right now. But I also talk a little bit about exit strategies and parenting with narcissists. So if you are into that, check me out on all the platforms.
I'm last, I guess. I am Ashley, and my handle is the Narc and Me, and I am just on Instagram and TikTok, and my podcast actually launches next week on the 13th. And I have been sharing little bits of my story and really just connecting with other survivors and finding tips and tricks through my own healing journey and therapy on how I can help you guys to heal as well.
That's awesome.
So I'm last. So if you're new here, I am Lee Hammock. I go by mental illness across all platforms. I'm a self-aware narcissist on these platforms to promote awareness, growth, healing, and change on all my platforms.
Hey, I'm just glad you got it right. That is awesome. Ashley, how many episodes have you guys recorded?
Oh my gosh. Well, I just finished with Ro literally 5 minutes ago, which is great. And
wow.
I have recorded 8 episodes. And just so you know, Bree and Lee, I'm coming for you. You guys are on the docket. The first one was sort of intense. It's my story. And, it's kind of weird to tell. But then I've had this great group of all of you on here sharing, again, tips on how to heal or what the reality with the narcissist is and all that good stuff. So I'm about 8 episodes in, and it starts on the 13th on
That's
Spotify.
Awesome. Where can people go to listen to that?
They can get it on Spotify, also Apple Podcasts. Podcast One is the podcast company, so you can also go to the Podcast One website.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
All over the place.
Awesome. Super glad to hear that. So we'll definitely be promoting that once it comes out, because that's going to be really cool.
And your episode is awesome.
We're excited to hear it. That's for sure. So got a lot of people in the house already. So feel free, if you guys don't want your comment on screen, then make sure to say, I don't want my comment on screen before we read the whole thing. Otherwise, we're just saying hi to everybody. Everybody's saying hi to everybody as we jump on here. So yes, we're super excited. So yep, we're all on here tonight. So we got 6 out of the 16 NarcAvengers. And if that's something that you want to see us in person, coming up here October 15th, we're going to be making the trek to Austin, Texas. We're super excited about that. We're going to have a lot of fun being able to interact with everybody there. A couple things that are happening in Austin, Texas. There's actually 3 separate things that are going on in Austin, Texas. One is going to be one-on-ones. So you actually can meet with us person and be able to go through, whatever, be able to talk to different things. We can also join an exclusive question and answer time that we're going to be having as well. About an hour and a half panel with 10 of us, and then we're going to do the regular meet and greet. So either way, if you're going to do the one-on-ones, the question answer, or the meet and greet, go to narcavengers.com to be able to sign up. That way you'll be able to know where to go, and we'll be excited to see you guys.
Yep. Texas is going to be fire, y'all. Just so y'all know, just like if you're not coming to Texas, I feel like you're gonna miss out on some stuff.
Well, thanks.
You gotta come to
I'm
Austin.
just messing with you. But seriously, so I feel like we've had 2 like meet and greets so far, and they're just getting bigger. It's kind of like they're just kind of growing. They're snowballing. So Texas is probably, I tell this to people are like, what goes on at the meet and greets and things like that. I just like, look, first of all, you get to meet us, and we're human beings and whatnot. You see real people in real life and things like that from social media. But what I also started to point out to people is that like a lot of people are looking for a community of people and survivors and people who have been through similar shared experiences as them. You can meet those people in person in your local area as well. Come out to Austin, Texas. Like nobody understands what I went through. Come to Austin, Texas. You're gonna be around hundreds of people who understand exactly what you went through. So Texas is gonna be an amazing event, y'all. North Carolina was great. Virginia Beach was great. Texas, and then we're doing Canada in November
19th, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we are all in there. So yeah, you want a support system. You want to see people who are going through the same thing you went through, who understand, who you can kind of vent to and stuff like that. You can make friends. Maybe you've been isolated from your friends for an extended period of time. Maybe you had to cut off your family, or you had to go ghost on a lot of people. Come to Texas. Come to Austin, Texas. Come say hey to everybody. Hey guys, I'm just I'm from here and I'm by myself. Boom, gotcha. You become friends with you make a lot of friends in the same place. So that could be a point for y'all to come as well. You ain't gotta come meet me. You gotta come meet Ben or whoever else is gonna be there. Just come there and try to find some friends, a support system as well. So that could help you out as well. Just say my piece on that,
Yeah. So go ahead and drop some questions in the chat. Everybody's like quiet starting off. Everybody said like hi, and then they got like freaked out because there's like more than just 2 people on screen. But yeah, go ahead and feel free to drop any questions in the chat. We'll pop them on screen. If you have any specifically for one of the people on here, then just kind of like tag them in the comment and be more than happy to answer.
Okay. So I feel like what we did last time was like everybody. Me and Ben go live all the time. So tell everybody what do y'all specialize in? I know Rose says she does stuff after breakups. Kat at Kat has a psychology degree, and she does stuff about narcissistic parents and growing up with a narcissistic father and things like that. Going no contact with a parental family member and things like that. Bree, abuse is abuse. So all things abusive. Bree talks about,
just abuse. All inclusive.
One stop shop is free.
April said yes. Let's get the deets on you all. So yeah, if you guys want to dive into like a little bit more of your specific like niche or kind of like the focus that you have.
I can start because Lee already did like such a good job of introducing me. That was most of it, but yeah, psychology degree, narcissistic father. So I do a lot of discussing on toxic parents, but also I really like to dive into the pattern that we find ourselves in after growing up in a toxic environment, right? It's like learned behavior. We get really adapt to that environment. And if you find yourself in multiple abusive relationships, that's kind of where I like come in. I like to talk about that, how we can break that pattern, start learning some self-awareness, and just create new behavior changes.
Yeah,
I love that. I'll go next. So my mother was a narcissist, and so is my mother-in-law. So that is something that I tend to connect with people over, is the process of understanding the family dynamic and possibly either going no contact or having very strong boundaries with your own parents and the family system. But I primarily like to focus on the more healing side, the rebuilding side. So focus on the relationship with yourself so that you can start actually having healthier relationships with others.
Love that. Yeah. So As I mentioned earlier, I kind of have a little bit of a focus on dating after abuse. I was with a narcissist that I married for 14 years. And immediately after that relationship ended, I jumped right into dating without any plan, without any healing, without any really working on myself or any level of understanding of the abuse I went through. Ended up with another narcissist. And it was a completely different type of relationship. And I had no idea what that was. And so leaving that one and exiting that one, which was, he probably was more of a psychopath from some of the messages that he left after I had blocked him. So it was really scary, and it was kind of a terrifying time for me because I had a really hard time trusting again. So I really like to teach and educate on the signs, the red flags, the ways to learn and trust yourself, the ways to feel like you can step out into the world again and be confident to date again, because it's important to be able to feel like you can love again, because it's that part's important. So loving yourself and learning some of those red flags, that's what I focus on. And I have a course on healthy dating after abuse called Healthy Dating After Abuse on narcapp.com. So if you want to see that, it is created by our friend Ben Taylor right here.
It's like over here for me, but yeah, somewhere
over here for me.
Amongst us.
We're like the radio.
Right over here, but it's on narcapp.com, and it's called Healthy Dating After Abuse. So if you're interested in stepping out into the world again and trusting yourself and learning when you're ready and the steps that are required in order to feel free to love again, check out my course.
I'm gonna check it out at some point.
When you're ready.
So my journey was a little bit different. I jumped on TikTok when I had no followers, and I just started talking. About 8 months after my narcissistic ex left, right after I went no contact. I don't even know if you can hear me over the storm in Austin right now, but get ready, guys. Bring your galoshes because it is nonstop raining. So I just started talking, and I didn't have any followers, and I had no idea what I experienced. And I watched a lot of the people on the screen were the people that I watched. And it was a bit of like a holy cow moment that what I experienced was real and that other people had gone through too. And these things, that I just thought like, oh, I was losing my mind. Well, no, I was told I was losing my mind, or I didn't know what cognitive dissonance or trauma bond was. And it was right around the time that I got into trauma therapy. So I just started sharing a bit of my story and my healing journey, and what was cognitive dissonance, and why was that the thing that kept me in the relationship and not trauma bond, when I thought trauma bond must be why I stayed, and why did I stay, and how do I break the trauma bond? And, I think 8 months no contact, I'm still healing. And so it's really been about sharing where I am, and the people who are part of, this group of people that follow me. I kind of feel like we're healing alongside each other, which has been amazing for me. I think hopefully for them too.
Yeah. I definitely think there's a big aspect of everybody healing alongside of each other. I love how you phrase that, because it's so true when, everybody's working on different things in their lives in different aspects, whether that's through therapy or counseling or, all different types of stuff. I had my therapy session today, and, it talked about like a whole bunch of stuff. It's stuff that's really good to be able to bring up and be able to work through on a day-to-day basis of how to be able to continue to grow, heal, and change.
Yeah. Hold on. I'll be right back. I need to make sure the doors are closed, because you would not believe the monsoon in Austin. I'm not kidding.
Sounds good.
Bring your umbrellas, folks.
No worries. You're good. Guys, we got a question here. Any ways of encouraging a narcissist to seek help? First question on the docket.
So I'll hop on that one real quick. Y'all still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, maybe I had it on mute because my kids in the background. So in situations like that, like, encouraging them to seek help, I just feel like they have to be open and want to actually seek the help that they need, that you think that they need. They have to actually believe that there is a problem, that they are, that there is a problem that they are, the issue of, and things like that. That they are the creator of this problem and stuff like that. I just feel like a lot of people hold out hope that even if they go to therapy, they're going to make any kind of discernible differences and changes and things like that. And they're just the chances of that happening are extremely rare. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, my wife screamed and yelled at me and called me a narcissist. And would that work for your person? Will he hit you in your face if you call him a narcissist or her a narcissist? What happens in that circumstance and whatnot? Is it pointless? You know, I know people don't want to give up, but sometimes you got to see like it might be a futile task to do.
Right. So someone put here, I don't want to be with my narcissist, but I'm obsessed with sticking around to see my narcissist karma. How would you all respond to that, especially for some of you guys that have stuck around longer to see that at times?
Yeah, that one's a tough one because I have a thought about what the narcissist karma actually is. And so sometimes I think as survivors, we might get stuck on, I wish that they would suffer the same way they have seen me suffer, right? And like the pain that narcissists will put on us while they're abusing us is something they number one, don't really realize. They don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they know how much pain they actually put us in, right? And so you will never see a narcissist suffer in the same way that you are suffering, right? But they do have karma. The karma is being them. Exactly my words. Thank you. The karma is them having to be them, right? They have to be that way, so unaware of themselves, so completely clueless of the chaos that they create around them. And that's the karma that they live in, that misery, that miserable person that they have to be. They have to be that person forever until they become self-aware. So that's their karma, really. So what are you sticking around for, right?
I think a lot of times people look at the narcissist and they're like, but he's off living his life or she's off living her life, like free and clear. And I'm over here broken. Like, how is this fair? And a lot of times people don't realize and don't understand that like narcissists are addicted to like their own impulses and compulsions. Like that's like something that like happens day in, day out, of the shame avoidance, of running away from stuff, of putting up walls and barriers and things like that. And just like the idea of like understanding like, hey, like the karma that's there is a lot of times the fact that they'll never be aware because they'll never be willing to actually say like, hey, like this is the shit that I have inside and I'm gonna own it.
Yeah.
Let's see, we've got I've heard narcissists get worse as they get older. Is that true?
Well, my dad's pretty old and I'm just kidding. But I think that just as people, I mean, he is really old, but I think as people age, they just lose a little bit more of their filter, give a little bit, they care a little less. And maybe their personality is just taking deeper and deeper root. So maybe a little bit worse as they age, get more stuck in their ways, if anything.
Let's see. Megan put a question in here for Bree. When did you know it was time to move away from your family? Did you have a plan?
Yes. So there were two different relationships. One was my mom and one was my mother-in-law. I'll start with the easier one. My mother-in-law would not, no matter even if we had consequences, abide by any sort of boundary. Even with consequences, we still ended up like paying. It got to the point where we were spending just ridiculous amounts of time just trying to construct text messages and plan what we could not talk about if we interacted with her. It just became so life consuming. It didn't feel worth it. So eventually we decided to pull away. With my mom, I actually constructed a plan with my therapist and my psychiatrist about creating a very harsh boundary of, can you please go to therapy because I don't feel safe around you? And if you don't, at some point in the future, I did not reveal at what point that would be, that I would not be willing to have a relationship and participate anymore. My mom came up with 1,000 excuses. I combated all of them by saying, I'll pay for your therapist. I'll help you find the therapist. Like any excuse, I had a solution. And she refused. In my head, it was a year. After 2 weeks, I went, what am I waiting for? She spent 26 years telling me she doesn't want to get better. And that was the point at which I finally changed my phone number and then moved across the country. So that's one way to do no contact.
We've got is it possible abusers aren't always narcissists? My former partner was highly abusive, but not charismatic, unfaithful, or a liar. He was more verbal, yelling, gaslighting, stonewalling. I guess when I read that, I'm like, that's still very narcissistic. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like a lot of times I just use Bree's username anyways as like abuse is abuse, because like when it comes down to it, like who cares if they're a narcissist or not? Like if they're verbal, yelling, gaslighting, and stonewalling, that's abuse enough to protect yourself to get out of that relationship and focus on your healing, growth, and change. You know, whether they check all the boxes of being a narcissist or not, it's not really that big of a deal at the end of the day. But your growth, your healing, and how you develop to be the person that you need to be, that's more important.
Yeah, I agree with that. But those definitely sound very narcissistic, and some of the abusive traits of most narcissists that we hear about do all of this verbal yelling, gaslighting, stonewalling. These are all manipulation tactics. These are all ways to keep you tense, to keep you on edge, and that's abusive and narcissistically abusive. So no, not all abusers can be narcissists. Not all narcissists. I think a lot of narcissists are abusive because they're manipulative. But yeah, sometimes if you drop the label narcissist and you focus on abuse, it becomes a lot easier to identify it.
Yeah, I'd also like to say gaslighting is lying. So he is a liar. Yeah. Not all narcissists are charismatic, but there are 9 categories to define a narcissist. And you only need to have 5 of them. So,
what would y'all say to someone who's like hoping, praying, and trying to latch on to that title of like, are they a narcissist or not? So I know if I can like leave the relationship.
I don't think you need the title to leave.
Yeah.
If somebody treats you poorly, and Rose said it earlier when we were, chatting about, if someone disturbs your peace, and that phrase really stuck with me. Like if someone makes you feel uneasy and you cry yourself to sleep and you feel disoriented or confused or any of those things, when is enough? Like enough is enough. It's just time to go. It doesn't matter if they're a narcissist, a sociopath, or just a horrible person. Like they're not the best fit for you.
I would say, are they abusive and are they toxic? I think those 2 words matter more than the word narcissist.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. 100%.
Awesome. He ghosted me for the second time because I told him my feelings don't matter to him. He says he's not in that mindset because he has too much stress. He has valuable things at my house. What to do?
Oh, there's a lot there. A lot going on. So he discarded you. I would challenge that that's not ghosting, because ghosting, you disappear, you're gone. Ghosting is gone forever. You never hear from them again. So you can't really ghost twice. But I do think that this person discarded you twice.
Disappeared.
And I guess he disappeared. And that you're not really a focus in his life.
And the things that are left behind are just a little way to keep the door open.
Yeah,
They're not on the hard way.
To me, that's I call that the ghosting fee. You got to pay for that one.
Yeah, that's the ghosting fee.
Yeah, that's the fee of ghosting right there. That'd be at your local pawn shop or somewhere.
I was going to say put it in a box, come pick it up. But if they're valuable, there you go. Use that as your ghosting fees.
Yeah, put it in the box and leave them out front, and you don't need to have contact with him when he comes to pick it up.
Exactly. There's a lot of different ways to do it. A couple things we've learned in the past, just with interacting with a bunch of people all across the country, is you do have to be careful if they have a bunch of stuff. You do have to be careful of your state or your country's requirements, because some things they can actually, like if you set out, if you burn their stuff or if you set it out, then they can actually file different lawsuits or sue or different things. Because there's a lot of different stuff with eviction notice and things like that. So just make sure that you're careful. An easy way is where you box it up and you have someone deliver it to their house, or you give it to a third party that they can do it like that, and that way your hands are out of it. But just be careful, because I used to always say like just throw it on the curb, but then I had someone be like, hey, I tried to do that and got in trouble. So like just be careful, because it all depends sometimes on where you're at too.
I was going to say also like document it, like have text exchange or email or something that says like come pick up your stuff. It will be out on the porch between this time. Yeah. So that way it like looks like you're at least trying here. Like you're not just burning their stuff.
Yeah.
I told you there's a fee for ghosting me. So
Or a she.
Specifically.
I'm divorcing my narc. He keeps messaging me and I don't respond. We still live together. So going no contact is strange right now. Am I right not to engage unless about the kids?
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is it. You are A-okay.
Just transactional.
The kids.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a quick one.
Yeah. We were like, yes.
Ben or Lee, how has your relationship changed with your child/children since you started therapy?
I mean, personally, I feel like it's gotten better over time. Just because I've been working on myself and being more open, and being more open and just kind of validated them a little bit more. Just interacting with them more, and just kind of dedicating more of my time to them and things like that. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just gotten better because I try to understand them and try more to put myself in their shoes and things like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's gotten better overall.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like for me, like it's developed more of a capacity to either handle like emotions or to handle like time, because like, I mean, a big thing for narcissists with their kids is typically like inconvenience. So it's like money and image, but it's also like inconvenience. And so like for me, it's like, okay, I can take X amount of time out of my day to engage, to get down on the floor and play, or to, build a fort, like I can do stuff like that. Whereas before it was not as much, it was, I mean, she's 3 now. I've been in therapy for like 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. So I don't have as much of like before and after per se. But there is like a big part in just getting to the place of saying like, hey, I have the capacity to be able to spend time. And sometimes that's even like mentally wise, like either to check off the things that I have in my head so that when I'm present, I'm actually present.
Yes.
Someone got a loud text.
Sorry.
What do narcissists fear? What do narcissists fear the most? Being irrelevant, being abandoned, being called out.
Ooh, I want to know the answer.
Yeah. Do tell us.
So mine.
I don't think it's any of those.
I mean, so for me personally, if I had to pick one of those, it'd probably be being irrelevant. I mean, I feel like just that's how my mind works. Irrelevancy bothers me. I don't want to be just normal or average or something like that. I just feel like this, just how my mind works. It's just like not enough for me. You know what I mean? So I just feel like irrelevancy is probably, if I had to pick between these three. I mean, I don't care about being called out. I do that to myself. But most narcissistic people want to protect their reputations and don't want to be called out. A lot of them have the fear of abandonment, so they keep hoovering you and stalking you and doing all that craziness. But like for me personally, it's just kind of being irrelevant. Yeah,
I would say like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was like being called out, because I didn't do anything wrong. So like, why in the world should I get called out for anything? And then being abandoned definitely like infiltrated a lot of my life with the different affairs. I didn't want them to abandon me, but then I could still use that to play off my story that I'm a victim. And then being irrelevant, I think for me at times, that I don't struggle with that as much. I struggle with that whenever I'm like more in like a depressed state of like, being irrelevant, or like, what is the point of like anything? I think for me, like one of the biggest things underlying, and Lean kind of maybe attest to this, attaches to, but I would say like the biggest one as far as like fear would be rejection for me.
Yeah. So I try to avoid rejection at all costs. That's the main thing. I try to avoid situations. I put myself in a situation where I will be rejected. Like, very recently this happened. I try to avoid stuff like that because it does leave a sting, feeling like I'm not enough or whatever. It makes me angry immediately and things like that. So, I mean, I've gotten better at it now, but it's still tough dealing with being rejected in any capacity.
We still both get triggered by it.
Oh yeah. Just like I still hate hearing the word no. As I tell people, just like, if you want to know who a narcissist is, tell them no. You'll figure out a lot by telling them no, or and things like that. So just say no. You're like, oh, what? No to me? You sure? No.
Say no to me. One thing that stands out for me in the book, Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown, she says that narcissism, which she describes it to be this shame-based fear of being ordinary. And I think about like, you know, two of the 9 behavioral traits, which is self-importance and then the need for feeling special and unique. And I feel that ordinary feeling or that irrelevant feeling that you're just not significant, you know, you're just a speck of dust like the rest of us in the world, is maybe there's a fear there because you have like, you know, shame-based fear of being ordinary. You want to be special and unique. So this is something that I think about when I hear that.
I am
That's why in a good way, when we got called out by Dr. Hominy of being unicorns, it's like, sweet, we're still unique.
Yeah, you find
unicorns. You love that.
You find a way to be unique. You know what I mean? That's typically what I do. Like I say, I feel like everything in my life, I was trying to find a way to stand out to be unique. You know, real estate agent, whatever I'm doing, you know, unique. I try to be unique. But social media platforms, whatever I do, you know, I try to find a way to kind of stand out, but at the same time not stand out. You know, just kind of like, we know who you are, but you're not making too much noise. You know, I don't bother. I try to, like, you see my social media platform, I don't bother nobody. I'm just chilling. You know.
I think one of the most hilarious moments. I wish I would have had it on video, but we were driving someplace. So me, Kayla, and then Sophia's in the back, and I think I was telling her about the article that came out that had Lee and myself. Was it New York Times, New York Post, like that article that came out, and it mentioned like unicorn in it. When I was telling Kayla, and all of a sudden we hear out of the back seat, we hear, "Daddy's a unicorn." It was hilarious. It was just like one of those moments that you're like, okay.
Yeah. Makes it real. My son always about some. Here comes the narcissist stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I usually suffer from reactive abuse. I tend to be caregiver codependent. So, who wants to bite off a little bit of reactive abuse?
I'm really good at codependency.
I mean, reactive abuse is tough because we all know it's when you behave uncharacteristically to yourself because you've continually been poked and prodded. And I guess the bigger question would be when you start asking yourself, why am I still here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that earlier. Reactive abuse, like to me, when I say the term reactive abuse, I think of it like financial abuse. I think of it like emotional abuse. I think of it like verbal abuse, psychological abuse. It's a type of abuse. The reaction is the abuse, right? So when I threw a plate at my ex's head because he was bugging me so much so that everything he was saying was like, I needed to defend myself and I was peaceful. Like, I mean, when I talk about being disturbed, your peace is disturbed. I was on the couch reading a book when he was coming at me and basically abusing me with verbal assaults, insults, attacks. And I just did something completely out of character, out of my integrity, and immediately felt shame, immediately felt guilt, immediately remorse. I immediately regretted that I did that. And I never lived that down. It was, look at the wall, bro. Look what you did, right? Like, you're abusive too. So like the reaction, the reaction is what was the abuse. The reaction is me throwing the plate wasn't me being abusive. It was him using my reaction to abuse me and have his abuse just completely disappear.
Right. What he did doesn't matter now because your reaction is all.
Now I'm an abuser too. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I tell people though, like when it comes to reactive abuse, you look like the abuser. You look like the aggressor in the situation. Like you throwing that plate, like, whoa, goddamn, bro, you busted a hole in the wall. So I'm putting artwork. I'm putting a frame around that hole in the wall.
It never got fixed.
Oh, you're gonna see that. You're gonna see it over there. I'm putting a nice little frame around it. Rose
get out of jail free card.
Yeah, and I like what Ashley said, which is like when you get to the point where you start asking the question, like, why am I still here? Mm-hmm. And I heard this once. It's not about the red flags in your partner as much as it is about the red flags in yourself. And we all have the capacity to get to that place when we're in an environment that's bringing up the worst of us. And we all have the capacity to be the best versions of ourselves in the right environment, right? So it's a lot of it is your environment. And you have to ask yourself, why am I still here? Because this is making me a person I don't want to be.
If I can just quickly add to, I think like a phrase that we should use more is like a lot of times when we get pushed into reactive abuse, we're actually in a trauma response. So that's why it feels so uncharacteristic. Many of us are in fight mode. So it does like, I personally view it as like, it's like instinctively our brain and body goes into almost self-defensiveness where it finally goes, if I don't do something, I I'm going to break, or I'm going to fall apart, or I'm going to be in even worse danger. So it's like a defense mechanism that our body hits. And for us, it's fight, which we're not trying to fight, but it comes out. And that's why it feels like almost self-betrayal.
Yeah.
Well, it feels out of control.
After the fact, like Rose said about like guilt, like the guilt and the shame is like, you hold on to that for years. Like, you know, you keep torturing yourself for the way that you reacted because that's not normal for us.
Well, a lot of times we get put in a position to, if our normal trauma response is flight or freeze, where you can't do that. You're not allowed, like you're blocked from leaving the room, or you're followed into the next room. Like you're not even allowed to go to flight response, right? Like you get to the point where it's your last resort, and it is a defense mechanism.
You guys run a weekend retreat.
We should.
Good.
Really need to. That's a great idea.
The next upcoming retreat is in Virginia Beach, Virginia on the 24th. So an in-person workshop. But seriously, October 15th, we're going to be in, like I said, I think it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. We're going to be in Austin, Texas for like a live workshop, one-on-one question and answer meet and greet. So the meet and greets tend to be like retreats. Like I said earlier, you can come meet survivors and victims and people who are going through similar shared experiences as you.
Yeah, we're super excited because in Texas, we're going to be doing, actually, there's 3 events boiled into one. So the entire day that we have is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we start off with 2 hours where you can actually meet, as long as you book ahead, you can actually meet one-on-one with 7 of the NarcAvengers that are going to be there and be able to interact, be able to ask questions. You know, it'll be something that's a one-on-one thing. So almost like a regular like coaching session or whatever, but it's going to be a one-on-one thing in the morning. And so you can get those at narcavengers.com. And then there's also going to be a exclusive question and answer time that does have limited seating. I think right now we have a couple people already signed up as the early bird special in one sense. So we've got people that are going to be there, but you can get that ticket from narcavengers.com. And then if you're just coming for the meet and greet, there's not going to be a time of question and answers in the actual meet and greet because we're doing that exclusive part earlier. We'll have a time where we probably like speak just to like wrap it up, but it'll be like the last like 20 minutes or something just to hear a little bit from everybody and to hear some videos from people that aren't able to be there with us that are also part of our group as well. But that's going to be coming up October 15th, Austin, Texas. I dropped the link into the chat for September 24th. If anybody is around or wants to visit us in Virginia Beach, Virginia, that's a workshop with myself and Lee Hammock. It's a 4-hour event on narcissistic abuse workshop that we're going to be doing to try to help people through their recovery journey. So we're super excited about that as well.
It is going to be fire, if I do say so myself. And I will say so myself.
You did say so yourself.
So I struggle with separating the good times from the bad times. Listening to you all has helped me stay strong. Yeah, a lot of times when people look back at the past, a lot of times what they want to latch onto is the good times. And a lot of times that's like a trauma response. It's a lot easier to remember the good than it is the bad. So you'll think about it and you'll be like, wow, like we went on a great date, but you forget of how you were devalued as you were getting ready. Or you'll forget about the rage that happened in the car leaving the restaurant. A lot of times we latch on to those little moments and we think that little moment is actually going to transcend all the shit that's there and actually say like, oh, it was actually a good relationship. So a lot of times when I talk about that, I like, hey, as you look back on the past, think of it as like if you're going out, if you're out in Texas and you're going out west and you're going to see the Rocky Mountains, you're going to see mountain range after mountain range after mountain range. And what happens is when you're super far away, you see a bunch of them like stacked on top of each other. And all you really see is you see one after another. And when you look far away, you're like, wow, like all I see is the peaks of all those mountains, each mountain range. And if you took a plane and you flew over those mountains, you could actually look down and you could actually see those mountains have these tiny little peaks with these giant pits in between until it gets to the next mountain range. And oftentimes that's how our relationships are. We latch onto those tiny little peaks and we're like, hey, it was good. And we miss everything that's in between. And then we try to build a fake bridge of potential of like, maybe this is actually real when it's not.
And I think it's pretty common because we were all chasing getting back to that good time.
Yeah.
You know, like that is the cognitive dissonance. That is the trauma bond. Like we were always trying to get back to when it was good. So we selectively just hang on to those moments that were good. But that really doesn't get us to healing because that's not the reality of the situation.
Well, yeah, and the truth is we're living in dual realities, right? There is one reality because they're two different people, or they act like it. There's a mask and then their real personality. So when you're going back and forth between dual realities, you're gonna have cognitive dissonance because we want to idealize their potential, but that doesn't make sense when they're so abusive. So we have to minimize the abuse for that to be okay, for us to idealize this, to romanticize who they are.
Mm-hmm. I think also on the side of healing, we have to remember that euphoric recall, it's okay to honor that. It's okay to honor those good times because you were a part of that. Maybe that person was the manipulator, maybe they had the mask on, but you felt that. You felt good, right? It feels good to be love bombed, right? Even though that's abuse, that feels good. So to have euphoric recall and to remember those good times, because it is easier to remember the good times, as Ben says, it's easier to remember that than the abuse. But we can honor that and say that was a good time and I enjoyed it. And I am capable of love. I am capable of experiencing that again. But this time it's going to be authentic.
And we can acknowledge that it was real for us.
It was real for us. Yeah.
And I tell a lot of my clients, you don't have to let go of all of it because they'll say, well, like, this was good. This was good. I brought a lot of good things with me. I continue, like we did a lot of habit changes together. We did have a lot of good times. I kept that going. It doesn't justify the abuse. It's still not acceptable. It still disrupted my peace, but I'll bring that with, right? Like you don't have to dump it all.
Yeah. I agree with that too.
I think Ashley made a good point earlier when she said you're chasing after the good times. Sometimes the narcissist, the person in your life, is pushing you towards the good times, because especially if you're threatening to leave or you're threatening to leave or go your separate ways, they'll push you towards the good times. Hey, they'll start sending you pictures and stuff like that. Hey, you remember this time right here at the movies when I proposed to you or whatever? Yeah, you remember this time right here? So they push you towards the good times as well, you know. Yep. And I always ask people when you're in a state of rumination, when you're trying to focus, you're thinking about the old relationship. What are you doing with your body? Like, what are you doing? Are you sitting down at home on the couch or something like that? Get up and move around. Like, move your body, change your body. If you change your body, you change your mind a lot of times. Scream, get up and dance, do some crazy shit. Just mix it up.
Yeah. How to deal with narcissism in a public social setting? Example: gaslighting my child.
Oof.
Your partner's gaslighting your child,
or like
that's
a grandparent.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on who's doing it, but in a social setting, if you try to, I feel like if that person is gaslighting your child in a public setting, they want you to react to make you look. They want. If I was doing that, I want you to say something to me in a public setting. Then the argument blows up, or you start yelling and screaming at me. Here comes the reactive abuse. I'm like, hey, whoa, now, hey, bro, calm down. You look crazy in public and stuff like that. I just feel like
gaslighting at that point could be dog whistling.
It sounds a little dog whistling.
That's what I was gonna say too. I was just like, I feel like there's like the little, it's just blowing the whistle. Only you can hear it. You like.
Yeah, dog whistling's a little bit different because if it's like overt gaslighting, the thing is you have a lot more power and control when you're separated from the narcissist. You have more room to create boundaries than if you're in the relationship, call them out for gaslighting. You're going home to that. Like you're going home to hear about it and get abused yourself for calling them out.
What if it would be friends? That goes back to that.
Are they friends?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the moment, if they're standing there and there's acquaintances that they have and they're gaslighting your child, what would go down?
I'd remove my child. I don't have kids, but I would. That's my first thought is like pick up the child and we're exiting the situation.
Yeah, I would say something. I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, you're not going to emotionally invalidate my child right now. We're gonna head out.
Right.
Yeah.
Emotionally invalidate your child? What are you talking about? I'm just pointing something out. Ashley, where you going? Ashley, where you going?
I'm triggered.
She can't handle the truth.
Trigger warning here.
She can't handle the truth, so she's leaving. So I
was gonna say you got me for like half a second. I was like, what the hell? Oh, he's just.
Yeah. You just got unicorn. That's not fair.
I'm just telling you, that's how people would do it. I'm just telling you, you take your child and leave, like, oh, you can't handle the truth.
Can't handle it. She's triggered. She's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't handle
Yeah, a little bit of criticism. Like it's saying they can't handle it.
Dang,
Call CPS. You know, they'll do some shit like that on you.
dang, you're good at that.
Yeah.
And scene.
Why do they lie even when it's not necessary, even when they won't gain anything as a result?
Why is it? What do you mean by not necessary? I feel like lies are necessary. Lies are controlled.
So
Like if I lie about having ranch dressing versus Caesar dressing.
It's
it's boredom. Isn't it boredom?
Who is it unnecessary to? Who is it not necessary to? I feel like you speak from your perspective, it's not necessary, but from the narcissist, it is necessary. It's like I want to play with you. Let's play. This is not ranch. This is Caesar. Oh, it's Caesar ranch. It's something silly. There's some stupidity going on. You're like, I just feel like don't put yourself in the narcissist's shoes, but like think about it from their perspective. They want to control you and mess with you. Like, and plus to be real with you, sometimes they don't feel like you deserve the truth. Like, just keep it real, keep it hot. Just like you don't deserve the truth. Like, man, I'll just lie to you anyways. Just.
I think like a big aspect is like when I read the second half of that question, it says even when they won't gain anything as a result. And I'm thinking like for me, lying is not about what I'm gaining all the time, but it's also about what I would lose. Like I would lose my control of the situation. I would lose my control of your perception. I would lose my control of everything that's going on. And there's an aspect of like, I don't lose. So then therefore I do whatever I can to make sure I stay in control or to make sure that I'm still the one functioning in a certain way. So like, there's a big aspect of like lying is a lot of times for gain, but a lot of times it's also just that shame avoidance and that protection of like, I don't want to lose control and I don't want to lose and be impacted with the idea of my guilt, my shame, accountability, and responsibility. So like there's a big aspect that like I lose the plausible deniability in one sense, even though it's lies, but like I lose like my the mask gets tainted, so it's like I'd rather lie and be like, no, this is actually who I am when it's not. But I don't want to lose that control or that piece over it because it's all about control. A lot of times people say it's about controlling other people. It's not. It's about controlling the mask. And in turn, a lot of times we control other people because that mask is more important than anybody else out there.
Well, too, and if they, like you've mentioned before, Ben, if they get caught in small lies, then they can get away usually with bigger lies because they're trying to make you think that you're catching on to what they're lying about, so they can actually withhold bigger and bigger information from you because they're bad at lying.
Yeah, a lot of times they have that too. Like for me, that was a big aspect of my life growing up. Like honestly, it wasn't till late 20s, I guess, in one sense that even my parents would always think that I was an awful liar, and I used that to my advantage. I would always get caught on lies, except the ones that I didn't want to get caught on.
Yeah.
And so like that got to be a place that I learned like early on to manipulate in one sense. So like 90% of the lies I would get caught in, but the other ones I wouldn't because I would just lie straight to their face. Every other times I would, flash a guilty face or a guilty look on my face and they'd be like, oh, like he always gets caught. Well, I only got caught in the ones I wanted to.
You totally just triggered me, Ben, because it just made me realize I used to say to him, you can't lie to me, you have bad lie face. I think right. They just
light bulbs.
You just put on like the lie face when you are okay with getting caught, and then all the other lies are bigger, better lies. By the way, I'm gonna need a nap after this.
That's how it goes though. It's just like I twitch when I'm lying. Like I can tell you when you're lying, your eye twitching. I'm like, oh, am I? Does it?
Really?
When I'm telling a lie that I don't want to get caught on, my eye doesn't twitch. So like I'm being serious, right? My eye's not twitching. I pointed out to you. Oh, you're right. Gotcha. So I've had very similar experience to what Ben just said. I thought it was funny. I was like, damn, that's true. Yeah. Just like
the narcissist would say like, he would lie about being, drunk or something, intoxicated. And I would say, you're intoxicated right now. Nope, no, I'm not. Nope. And I'm like, why are you lying? Like, it's obvious. Like there's bottles everywhere. Like, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you know that I'm drunk, I'm not really lying. Like, it's obviously a joke. Like, that I'm lying, so I'm not really lying. There's that narcissistic word salad. Like, none of that makes sense. But that I'm lying, so I'm not really lying. If it's so obvious that I'm drunk, that I'm not lying. Like, I mean, I'm lying, but I'm not lying. What?
I think the best one that I've heard so far, shared with permission, but I think the best one I heard so far is the wife came back to the truck smashed through the fence, like driven like through the fence, like halfway through. And she's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I don't know." She's like, "No one else is here. What happened?" He was like, "The turkeys." And he tried to blame it on the turkeys somehow. Like she was like, "That doesn't even make sense," but like that's the story he stuck with because that's what he started with.
Gosh, that's funny.
So she mentioned like, wait, narcs want to get caught in their lies, then why bother? Because a lot of times you have to remember, a lot of times people get latched into their mind that supply is always this good thing. Of like supply is, you know, love, money, sex, all that kind of stuff. Supply can also be you screaming, yelling at them, or calling them out. Like there's a big aspect. There's like negative supply and like positive supply. And at the end of the day, the narcissist doesn't care. It's just supply. So go ahead and sign me up, kind of a thing. So like the thing is, people get stuck sometimes of like, you know, well, you know, I acted this way, or you know, they acted this way. Like, why in the world does it matter? It doesn't matter the narcissist as long as they're getting a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
And that's why y'all hear me always say controlling your reactions against a narcissist is a superpower.
It's hard.
If they cannot trigger you, they cannot control you. So it is hard. That's the point. That's why it's a superpower. Everybody doesn't have this superpower.
When a toxic person continually interrupts you, talks over you, or yells during a disagreement, what is the best strategy to implement?
This is my dad, 100%.
Strangle them.
Mother-in-law. Yes.
Go to prison for murder. No, I'm just don't do that. I would say definitely take a step back. Stop making it your mission to get this person to hear your point of view, to understand. Start using some non-defensive responses. I could go over some examples. Gray rock if it's safe, depending on the toxic person. But it's just getting in a mindset like, you know what? I don't need you to hear my point of view. Don't need it. I don't need you to understand this.
What I say is don't argue the truth. You yelling and screaming and arguing back and forth, and you know the truth. Like they know the truth. They don't want to hear you. They don't want to hear it. Honestly,
I like that quote. You can't argue with someone who's determined to misunderstand.
Yeah. Don't make it your mission to get someone to understand when it's their mission to misunderstand. It's their mission to misunderstand. You could literally get a mathematician to say like 2 + 2 = 4. And they're like, no, don't.
Yeah. Is it 2x or is it just 2? You know,
it's easy to die on that hill and twist it around. Like Kayla and I need to do a video. We've talked about it forever. We need to do a video of us discussing time zones, because we literally can go around the circle discussing time zones, and I'll take one side and she'll take another side about, you know, is someone Midwest, are they an hour ahead or an hour behind? Like we'll literally, and I can argue both sides, and it's more of a joke now, but like it's something that you can see where the narcissist can flip, can switch, can, you know, adjust stuff to still be right, even though they're 100% wrong.
I'm interested in how they are behind, but also ahead at the same time. I'm interested in that debate. So yeah, I need to see that one. I'm trying to figure it out on my own. Like, wait.
So we both argue the opposite sides. It's actually quite hilarious. Like I think people would get a kick out of it it might be triggering and funny at the same time. I don't know. We'll have to see.
But I'm an empath. How do I not feel sorry for someone to avoid narcs and users and abusers? Oof. I feel like y'all, you empaths should answer that one, because I'm just like, look.
Listen, I think it's okay to feel sorry for someone. I don't think it's okay to feel sorry for someone at the expense of your safety and your security and your peace. It's okay to have empathy, I think, because I have it, but it's just, you just don't need to.
I would disagree. I'm joking, y'all.
When you have some extra, send it over.
Yeah. Just dump it in the chat.
You don't need to dictate your behaviors based on your emotions. They're separate. Our thoughts are separate from our behaviors, which are separate from our emotions. Feel what you feel, but still choose you.
Always choose you.
Yeah, choose yourself.
So don't let your care for someone else be at the expense of yourself. That's what I tell people. It's just like, y'all, you love, when people say me like I'm an empath and I care so much, I'm like, look, you can care too much. Your empathy will be weaponized against you, and you're gonna carry yourself into an early grave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just be careful with your empathy. Keep your empathy,
For those who deserve it.
Yeah, for those who deserve it, absolutely. Because that's one of the talking points. Like when people just ask me, like they're like, "Can narcissists love? Can narcissists care about people?" And things like that. I was like, I feel like that's to me, that's irrelevant to me right now. Just like you can love, you can care, you can have empathy. I just feel like it's a disservice to yourself and to other people when you waste it on the wrong person. It's just like you're wasting all this the ability to love, care, and apply empathy on somebody who doesn't deserve it. I'm like, give me that gift. Let me feel that extra empathy. You know what I mean? Give me that gift of love that you covet so much, but you're wasting it on somebody who doesn't deserve it. Give it to me. Give it to somebody. I keep the empathy. I feel like I like my little act right now. It helps me through to get through the day sometimes. But the love stuff. I just like. Yeah. Just
I was going to say you can like love and have compassion for someone at a very safe distance.
Yeah. Love them from across
because
the street.
you love or care for someone doesn't mean you have to be with them. I think a lot of times people get confused when they feel empathy or when they feel like different feelings or sadness or guilt. A lot of times in the relationship that gets twisted around and they ascribe different feelings to it. Then are like, oh, well, now I need to be with this person, or now I care so much about this person. And you can, but the problem is the story that you're telling yourself that oftentimes sucks you back in. That builds like that trauma bond where you keep going back time and time again to that abuser because of what you're thinking. Maybe I can fix them. Maybe I can help. Maybe they'll understand. Like you get addicted to the maybes because it's a lot easier for someone to end up working way harder. They'll work like crazy for a maybe. And a lot of times not as much for a sure thing.
Yeah. You have a maybe baby.
No more maybes. Not even maybe.
Do you think there's a difference in a narcissist partner and narcissist parent when it comes to hoovering? Example, parent less likely to hoover.
I don't know if they're less likely. I feel like the approach might be different.
Yeah.
You know?
The tactics might be different.
Yeah, I just like that. If me personally, my kids, with no contact on me, I would hoover them. Would I give up eventually? Yeah, I'm just like, man, fuck y'all. After a while, my mind would shift to that. But like initially, I just like, I would try to send them text messages and all kinds of make them feel guilty. I just feel like my mind would go to automatically try to make them feel guilty, making them feel like they owe me something for being here. It's like, hey, look, you were born, weren't you? So I deserve some credit for you being here.
I'm laughing at just how relatable that is.
Yeah.
Not in a great way, but totally get it.
So I haven't said this, but when people ask questions,
I
automatically put myself in that mindset. That's what the acting comes into. I just like, this is a scene right now. How would I be in the scene? I was like, action. I'm like, look, you owe me your life. You know that, right? Like, I struggled. I paid. I gave you so much money. I gave you so much of my time when you were growing up. Like, if I didn't spend so much time on you, I could have focused on myself and been more successful. But like, you cost me some success in my life, so you owe me something. God damn it! I'll make you feel super guilty. Anyway, and I'm out of character. I'm out of character now.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
Heather's saying hello in the chat. She said, my narc parents hoovered for years after we cut them off until we all moved and had preemptively blocked them on social medias. So, yeah. A lot of times it has to get to that place. All right, I got 4 questions left. If you guys are just joining, you could watch it on our YouTube here in a little bit, but I got 4 questions left. Can a whole family unit be considered narcissists, parents and adult children?
So I want to say yes, but I feel like that would be more along the lines of a cult. You know what I mean? That lends into like cultish behavior right there. Where like the narcissism is built into the cult / religion, whatever you feel like that dynamic is. Culture, whatever it is right there. I did a story very recently where pretty much a woman said her daughter got caught up with a man. The mom, the brothers, the dad, the sisters are all kind of narcissistic, like have narcissistic tendencies and stuff like that. And they all kind of support each other in one big house. I'm like, that's a goddamn cult. Man, that's a cult.
But there's always a cult leader, though, isn't there? Like,
there's a hive. There's a hive mind in there. There's a narcissistic hive, like bees. Like a bee, there's a queen narcissist in the beehive. Beyonce is in there somewhere.
I think theoretically the whole family unit could be a narcissist, because narcissism is learned behavior and a lot of it's trauma induced. So if you have narcissist, I mean, like if you have a bunch of children, the odds of them all being narcissists is probably not, but one or two, yeah. Narcissists get together and then they abuse their kids, or they teach their kids they're entitled and how to avoid accountability and how to gaslight and how to like get away with shit, manipulate, whatever. So then there you go. A whole family of avoidant.
Yeah.
Toxic soup.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like with like the narcissistic family dynamic, it's covering for other people, but then it's also like they don't care. Like you have like a parent that's grown up like enabling the kid, or overprotecting them in a lot of ways. The kid that wraps the car around the tree drunk driving, and they make it all go away. They never have that accountability or the responsibility early on, so it carries into a lot of other aspects too.
Yeah.
If they're so good at love bombing, why don't they keep it up to their new supply?
What do you
Keep
mean?
it up to keep their supply.
Why don't they keep it up to keep their supply? So it'd be like the idea, I guess, like if they're so good at love bombing, why don't they just continue love bombing, and have a happy relationship and ride off into the sunset? Like I think like the big aspect is like the answers in the phrase in the wording there of like if they're so good at love bombing, so like if they're so good at lying and creating a false reality, why don't they keep lying and creating a false reality? Well, it's because it breaks apart, because it's not actually real. It's not based on truth, vulnerability, or anything down deep. It's actually a facade that they use to manipulate, to control, and to trap you emotionally and mentally so that you can't leave.
Yeah. And they don't want to.
They don't want to do
a lot of work.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Also not the act.
Yeah, love bombing is manipulation to get something that they want, right? So it's they're selfish and they're short term. They want to get something now, so they'll love bomb and tell you they love you on the first date. They'll tell you that we should get married. What would our kids look like? Like they'll start saying things to you like, we're soulmates, we're meant to be, we're twin flames, let's move in together.
So no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they do this because they want to speed it up, so that they can get you to the place where they can start to really manipulate you and keep you, right? The love bombing isn't to keep you. The love bombing is a short, it's just like a fast track to get you trapped in. And they don't keep you because they're not love bombing you anymore. They wouldn't want to do that. That's too much energy for them. They would hate to do that.
But so I was gonna say, I feel like sometimes they will end up keeping you just out of spite, out of fear of being alone and things like that. So, and I always tell people this too: longevity in a new relationship does not mean happiness. Like we can be together for 20 years and be unhappy. The optics look good, like they look so happy, but internally, behind the scenes, are they actually happy? You know what I mean? That's why I tell people, like, stop watching the social media when they're with the new supply or the new relationship partner or whatnot, because like turn off the narcissist TV. It's like a reality TV show. You turn it on, you watch them love bombing. Oh, they're in Cabo and I want them to go to Cabo. No, but something's going on in Cabo. You don't know what's going on in Cabo. They're smiling in the picture, like, but like behind the scenes, we got an argument over, this shrimp was too cold and it's my new supplier's fault. Like, or you ordered the shrimp too late, something like that. But they're in Cabo, so you just focus on the Cabo. You don't know, you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. So longevity does not equate to happiness. Yeah,
when you watch the new supply on social media, you're signing up for that production. Like, get out your popcorn, because there's going to be a big show of convincing, and it's crazy because it's convincing you that you're the idiot for losing them, and that maybe you are the abusive one, because obviously everything's perfect now. But it's also convincing the public and social media of like, hey, we have a great relationship. And a lot of times people don't acknowledge and don't realize that it also is another way that they lock in the next supply, because the next supply is like, oh my gosh, like it's perfect and amazing. And it's on social media everywhere. So now I feel ashamed now that they're starting to abuse me in private. I can't actually come out and tell my friends and my family, because that would be incongruent with like what's actually out there. And I don't want that out there. So like they trap that way as well. And then the last one that I'd say, which I think a lot of times is flipped around, is I use the illustration of like, let's say you always wanted to go and have a beach vacation. And then they go on a beach vacation. You're like, oh my gosh, they're doing exactly what I wanted. A lot of times it's because the narcissist isn't that ingenious about it. They're just like, this shit worked before. Let me do this. Do this and this.
Exactly. I feel like
Ideas of their own.
You don't know that maybe the person that they're with hates the beach. Like a lot of times people assume like, oh, they have the perfect thing. You never know what might have been perfect for you might be the exact opposite for the next person.
Yeah.
It's traumatizing too. Like watching it doesn't help any part of your healing because you're watching this show that, like Lee said, it's like watching a reality show. It's not real. And they're doing all the things that they said they would do with you, which is basically the smear campaign to show everyone else they're perfect. But you're just re-traumatizing yourself because it's why didn't they do that with me? They said they were going to do that with me. How come they look so happy now? Like, it's just not worth what you put yourself through while you're watching the bad reality show.
Don't sting your eyes. Don't sting your eyes.
And I say, like, if you just happen to turn on the Narcissist TV and you're watching it and they're doing the same, they're doing exactly what you ask for, you like that should show you how manipulative that person is. Like, they can't even come up with original ideas of what to do next. They have to do the stuff that you wanted. Like, you should see that, if anything, that should show you more clearly who that person really is. Like, God damn, like you really are not genuine. You know what I mean?
And just in general, like, take narcissists out of it. Social media relationships aren't real. Like the best social media relationships are usually the ones that are the most dysfunctional behind closed doors. They're yelling, they're screaming, they don't communicate at all, but they go on vacation and smile for you don't know what's going on.
It's true. And so often it's like you guys said, there's no creativity. It's like watching a replay of your own life with another person in your shoes. It's not worth putting yourself through the drama.
The alternate reality.
Yes.
Alternate reality TV is what it's called now.
It's easy once you've set a pattern and the pattern works, it's easy to replicate. So then you go to the same restaurants, you go to the same romantic spot, like all that kind of stuff is easily duplicated. And the next person is like, oh my gosh, you thought so much of me. Like, no, I thought so much of like 5 people ago. You're just reaping the benefits of like, this is tried and true and it works.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you all so much for being on here. Everybody watching, if you didn't get a chance, or if you're just popping in right now and you want to be able to watch this, it'll be up on our YouTubes later. So feel free to be able to check that out. All our handles are right here beside our name. So feel free to be able to check that out. We're on all the different platforms. Would love to have everybody be able to follow some more, support the community. If you guys are new and want to be able to interact with us or be able to see us in person, we're going to be coming to Austin, Texas, October 15th. You can get tickets at narcavengers.com for one-on-ones, private one-on-ones with each of us, exclusive question and answer time, and then also a meet and greet at there as well. So we'd love to be able to have everybody interact. If you haven't had a chance, or if you're in the Virginia area, would love to interact with you, with myself and Lee Hammock, because we're going to be in Virginia Beach, Virginia, September 24th, doing a narcissistic abuse recovery workshop. It's going to be a 4-hour event in person. It's not a meet and greet. It's a chance to be able to meet and heal. So come to it, and we're super excited to be able to work with you and try to help along the way. So thank you, everybody, for jumping on, and we'll see you guys later. Have a great night.
Bye.